Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who once shook Johnny Cash's hand, Russell Green.
How's it going, everybody?
Dude, thanks for joining me. So, this is a big occasion, everybody. Russell is my first student, well, former student, to join me on the podcast. And I mean, we should have just recorded 40 of our conversations in class because we basically just talked about movies anyway. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're joining me, and I'm glad you're joining me to talk about The Devil's Rejects, because this is a movie I wanted to talk about for a while because it haunts me. Right?
It's a movie that holds a special place in my heart.
What's the story? What's the story? When did you first watch this?
Man, so funny enough, I first watched The Devil's Rejects back when I was a kid, man. So back in the day when my mom lived up in Virginia, we used to, whatever cable package she had, it included HBO and Cinemax. That was where I would always be able to watch, you know what I'm saying, whatever movies that I couldn't watch in front of her. So I saw Super Troopers on there and Death to Smoochie, stuff like that. Like I would stay up late to watch it. And one night they played Devil's Rejects and I was just like, I was blown away. So I was, and I watched that movie probably a couple times a year, man, and I just get a different appreciation for it every time.
And so I watched it when I'm thinking '05. I watched it. We probably rented the DVD. Someone maybe bought it, and we put it in. And this is on that night we had a show. I was in a band called the Brewskis, and we were terrible, but we had a show. And we used to hang out together as a band the day of and just kind of bond. And we never practiced. So we'd just hang out, have some beers. Someone decided to put on The Devil's Rejects. Mm. And we just sat there. just, but you know what though, man? Like I didn't like House of a Thousand Corpses. So I was like, oh no, like Rob Zombie. But then you get like characters talking about, you better say some Mark Twain shit before, just Bill Moseley absolutely destroying every line that comes out of his mouth. Like this Mark Twain stuff. And then you get the Freebird ending. And then you get, the cinematography in this movie is, absolutely beautiful. I was reading through my notes and for the cinematographer, he was a famous documentarian named Phil Parmet. And Rob Zombie told him to watch like Amores Perros and like these super, super art house movies to prep for this thing. Like this is a movie. This is Rob Zombie's best film. And it's also a good film, and it's nasty, but it's made well and with really good cinematography and performances.
It's what I consider a very happy accident. I was just I was scrolling through it today. I was, like I said, I watch this movie every so often. I don't watch it too much where I like kill the replay value, but maybe a couple times a year just to appreciate it. And I'm sitting there watching it and I was like, dang, they really got away with putting this on. They really it's so much going on. And like you said, that word that you use, you was the first person to describe that film as nasty. And I can't think of a better, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause you're right. Like, just like when I was like, dang, like they really went for it. You know what I'm saying? Like the torture, the nudity, like it wasn't pretty. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a pretty film, but for whatever reason, it just made sense.
It's a movie about serial killing nymphomaniac cannibals who you're supposed to feel bad for by the time the movie ends. And the way that it's so daring that how Zombie does it. Like he introduces them as the worst of the worst, like people in cages. Otis is sleeping next to a dead woman. I mean, they are horrifying. And then by the end, when they're cruising around their car having happy memories, and then they just get lit up because William Forsythe has lost his mind. Well, no, he's dead by this time. Tiny got him, but you're supposed to feel something for these people. And so I remember back in '05 watching this movie and just kind of thinking like, this is good. Like, and then I went and read Roger Ebert's review and he liked it. And I love what Ebert wrote, man. He was like, listen, y'all, don't go watch this movie, then complain to me. All I'm saying is it's very effective and it's very confident. And the one thing I wish I would have watched this when I was teaching you, but I watched the behind the scenes documentary. It's 2.5 hours, and just listening to Rob Zombie. This had half the budget of House of a Thousand Corpses. Rob Zombie said that it was going to look 100 times better because he said he put a lot of stuff on screen, but it didn't show up. And everything he preached though in this movie, I love it. He was like, it's simple. It's simple. It's cheap with limitations. They went on location scouts and found like the place where Captain Spaulding's staying, they just moved in. Like they didn't even put many, they just found an abandoned house. They kept
Right.
everything on the same lot. And but I love that he kept saying, like, I want functional. And he found a Cheap Trick shirt because he knew people from Cheap Trick and he got it for cheap. Like this is a guy who, like, all he did was think about budget and simple. I think he went too overboard with House of a Thousand Corpses. And then with this one, he's like, no, we are simple, 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 simple. And he
Right.
nailed it. And he nailed it.
No, that's definitely something, like just watching it back now, especially with the knowledge I have from, from school and things like that. I will say you can definitely tell the difference between the two. Like they're not even, it's not even remotely close to being the same movie. I went back and watched House of a Thousand. So I saw that after I saw Devil's Rejects. You know what I'm saying? Like I found out about that later down the line. And when I watched it, I was like, I was hoping to get that Devil's Rejects feel. And I was like, this ain't, this is, I think this is my best way of looking at it. House of a Thousand Corpses feels like a B movie that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, yeah, there's things that you could have made better, but I can see what you were trying to do there, but there was a lot of room for improvement. Devil's Rejects, even though it looks and kind of feels like a B movie, it feels like the best version of a B movie you could get. If a B movie hit it all on the, you know what I'm saying? Like if it executed well, the only thing that was missing is like the visible, big budget look. But that right there in itself, that's what made it special, because it didn't look big budget. Like even when you look at a lot of the shots in it, like there's like, it was a lot of close-ups. If you go back and look at, I mean, every shot that's on the character, it's like a tight close-up, and it's like, whoa, like what is the purpose of shoving the camera here, but it's like, it just works. It like I said, it's a happy accident. It's like you failed successfully.
Parmet, he started working with Garrett Brown, the inventor of the Steadicam. So, and then he also shot a ton of documentaries. So his camera work in there, he knew what to do. I mean, 90% of it was handheld. And Rob Zombie recruited him specifically for this movie. The intention of Zombie in this movie, listening to him talk, he's such a smart guy. And I think I admire him more because he isn't a fan of House of a Thousand Corpses and he wanted to do better. So instead of quitting and being floored and throwing a temper tantrum, he scaled everything back. He knew that, he said that the lack of budget led to creativity. He shot it on 16 millimeter. Like everything he did was just thoughtful for this movie. And listen, I'm not saying the content is good. I mean, this is horrifying content, but you can see the influences of Bonnie and Clyde and Wild Bunch and Badlands, and there's a little True Romance in here. I mean,
even Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I feel like you feel like little drips of that on there. Yeah,
like horror, like us people following horrifying people is not a new thing.
Right.
I just what man, like, yeah. But see, the reason I like this movie more now is this is like a filmmaking with a purpose. Like this was Zombie. This was his second film. He was still pretty pure in the industry, and he set out with a singular mission just to make a simple film. And you know what's funny too? I read I counted all the F-bombs. There's 230 of them in the script, and then there's 202 in the actual movie, which kind of surprised me because when you improv, you've improv with people before, they just start swearing. You're like, why are you swearing? But then like they drop an F word every other sentence. So I thought, hey, like maybe they're just improvising on set, dropping F-bombs. And I looked at the script. Nope. All the F-bombs are in there. So this was a very controlled movie.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I thought, oh man, this is just people winging F-bombs. But yeah, he had 230 F-bombs in the script.
Well, yeah, when I was watching it, when I did my little rewatch, I did pick up on that. Like I thought to myself, like you said, with the character Otis, like I remember busting out laughing when he said that, because that's one of those sayings that like your dad says to you like right before, you know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? Like you're really testing my patience. Like that's one of those smart dad things that they just come up on the quip. Like, where'd you get that from, Pops? You know what I'm saying? Like when he said that, I thought to myself, like, dang, I wondered, there's no way they wrote that in the script. Like that had to have been a magical thing. But it's crazy that you said like there actually wasn't a lot of wiggle room, or there wasn't a lot of improv, that they stuck pretty close to the script. That's very impressive. I mean, that gives a lot of credit to whoever wrote it. I want to say Rob. I think Rob Zombie wrote
Yeah,
it.
he wrote it. Yeah.
Yeah, that gives a lot of credit to like just his imagination. Because I mean, that's something that I have a lot of fun with is writing dialogue. I think that's one of my favorite things to do, more than describing scenes and all, is writing dialogue, because you can kind of, some of the things you would not say to somebody, I can just give that to this character now. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not saying it, but this person is. And it's like I said, it's just those little things or some little quips you may get from your parents, and you kind of tweak it and mold it, and you just insert into a character. So I thought that's really cool that he had that kind of, he was just that colorful with it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody had great lines. Everybody had, you know what I'm saying, lines that stuck with you. You know what I'm saying? Like Sid Haig, what's that about clown business? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
him. You
50,
think like it
50,
was just
50,
so
50.
many. Yeah, it was so many great lines in that movie. Like, it's like, damn. So I'm impressed. I did not know that. Wow.
I think the scene I didn't like the most was about the chickens, because that's a
Yeah.
scene that did nothing for the movie, right?
Yeah.
That that's the one thing, that's the one excess I think Zombie went, because this is a pretty tight picture, because it's very it's very what ABC in structure, where they get their Russell, their house. Okay, which house would you rather fight your way out of? I'm gonna give you 5 options. All right.
Okay.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre house 74. All right. The Insidious house from 2011 with the red lipstick demon in there. The 2005 Devil's Rejects house. Let's see. The Silence of the Lambs, Buffalo Bill's house. Or that horrifying Cannibal Lounge. I don't know if you've seen it, but from the road. So which one would you get stuck in? I got you a birthday present and you have to pick one.
Oh man, the one that I would prefer to fight out of. Well, I can tell you right now, the Silence of the Lamb one, I'm just not dealing with that, because that's nah, man. Buffalo Bob was a wild guy.
Yeah.
So I'm not dealing with that. And like you said, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house, like that. Jeez, that's a lot of space to get caught up. That's a lot of space to get caught up in. That's a lot of tight hallways, man. That's I think I'm gonna try to get out of that Devil's Rejects house, man. That house is pretty rickety and raggedy, man. So
Wow.
I think I could probably do some damage in that house. It looked just old and raggedy and disheveled enough. I think I could get out. I didn't see too many traps there. You know what I'm saying? They had the basement. You know what I'm saying? The basement with the cages. They had the, you know what I'm saying, the main floor where they did the first fight, the first shootout. And then they had the bedrooms. I think I like my chances getting out of that house.
Oh, I like it. Yeah, I don't want the red lipstick demon chasing me from Insidious, because that thing could follow me.
Man, that movie right there, I definitely wasn't going to pick that. That's, anytime I hear tiptoe through the tulips, like
Oh gosh,
it's an unnerving song for me now.
So I just showed that one of my students talked about that scene, and we played it in class, and I was jumping up and down. I've seen that movie 4 times, and I still just fall on the ground when I watch it.
Yeah, man,
it's horrifying.
It's a scene.
Oh, see, okay, so I'm not taking TCM because I just don't want to deal with all those people. They seem to kill guys pretty quick in the Devil's Rejects house, so that's good. But I'm not dealing with red lipstick demon. Buffalo Bill, well, he'll like lotion you up for a while. You can hang out down in a well.
Man, that just tears. Man, I'm like kinda, I'm not claustrophobic, but I'm like right there. If I'm like, okay, I really can't get out this hole, that would freak me out.
I'm not. I just don't want to be killed by the Devil's Rejects. That red lipstick demon will follow me. Gosh, I don't want to be stuck in a hole. You know what? Give me TCM, because Leatherface kills people fast.
Oh man, I'm gonna do my best to just jet out. Man, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm fighting. They're gonna have to put some work in to get me.
Well, this is the 74, so you can outrun Leatherface. In the 03 one, I don't know if you remember the scene in the 2003 remake, but this guy's running in a straight line, and somehow Leatherface with a chainsaw manages to run completely around him, get in front of him, and then hack his leg. That's how fast Leatherface is in that one. How pissed would you be, Russell? You run 100 yards, right? And you're like, yeah, I ditched this guy. Then Leatherface pops out right in front of you.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Every time I see those movies, I'm just like, they damn near just leave it, because, you know, in your mind you're like, I can outrun Jason, I can outrun, you know what I'm saying, I can run out Michael or Leatherface, and then you're just like you said, like they always catch me. They always get like, it's like there's no, you're never going to leave Mike. You're never going to leave Leatherface. Like they always catch you. So it's damn near like just let him do his business.
I mean,
You gotta
yeah.
let him do it, man.
And listen, if you
Nobody
see
wants to
them,
die tired.
that means you're going to follow horror movie logic. So you're going to trip on every tree root. You're going to slip on every. There's going to be banana peels. There's going to be
Just
low
get it over
branches.
with. Just get over it. Just no. I don't want to die tired. Just. Man.
He didn't die tired.
No, I didn't die. You can etch that on the tombstone. He didn't die tired. No.
So, where do you rank this amongst other zombie films? Devil's Rejects. Like, where do you? This is for me. It's his top, right? I think. I mean, what do you think about his Halloween movies?
So I've seen his Halloween movies. My brother-in-law actually, he's a huge Michael Myers fan. So he's the one that actually, I went to the movies with him and my father-in-law as well, and we saw it. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I did enjoy them because they weren't. It's not like I saw anything that I didn't expect to see. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't like it was bad either. So it was just like, this is what I like to categorize movies like this. They're roller coaster movies. I know exactly what I'm getting. Just I'm paying to get you know what I'm saying? I'm paying to get that. So I enjoyed them because I wasn't expecting too much. You know what I'm saying? Like I kind of, I'm familiar with the character, familiar with the story. So it's like, I thought he executed his Halloween films pretty well. And as far as ranking his films, I mean, Devil's Rejects is so good that I just refuse to watch 3 from Hell. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, it's a slog, man. It's when you try to recreate magic.
Yep.
But like so here's the thing. Like I feel like most cult classics, right? Or most movies come like this, come from young directors. Like think about what was Wes Craven's first film? Oh gosh, The Last House on the Left. Yeah, The Last House on the Left. He had no idea what he's doing. He just filmed it like a documentary. You have Halloween. It was $250,000. Like there was a bunch of kids making that film. You have Wes Craven making Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, look at the way that he just struck lightning in a bottle. I think most of these really great films that happen, horror films, I think they come from young filmmakers who just don't know better yet.
Right.
And like what 3 from Hell came out 15 years later, and it just you just felt it, man. You just
it's not the same. Like you said, I mean, there's a reason why that doesn't happen often in film. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, the fact that Ice Cube was able to make Friday, he struck gold with Friday. And like you said, a movie that was made for very cheap, great movie, you know what I'm saying? A cult classic. Then you turned around and did another one, a sequel, little bit bigger budget, somewhat slightly different cast. And then you do it a third time. Like that doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like that's like that's a unicorn situation. So I mean, you made your first one, House of Thousand Corpses. It was like I said, that was a B movie to me. That was a when you're traveling across country, you walk into a Quick Trip or you walk into a Love gas station, they got the DVDs in there for like, say 2 for $5, 3 for $10. That's one of those movies. You dig what I'm saying? You just dig your hand in there because you're about to go pop this in the car. You need something to entertain. Devil's Rejects far exceeded that. You know what I'm saying? To the point where it's like that, like you said, that movie is a cult classic. Like I'm sure he probably gets sick of people talking to him about that movie just because of how good it is and how much I'm sure that movie has overshadowed all of his projects.
And rightfully so.
You do it again. People want you to do that again. And it's just like you said, it is hard to fail successfully twice.
Yeah. And he was coming from a place of desperation, Rob Zombie, after House of a Thousand Corpses. He was coming from a place where he purposely gave himself a little bit of money, where he scaled back everything. Like this was, he had something to prove. And then he proved it with Devil's Rejects. And then he jumps over to Halloween. And what I admire about the Halloween movies, his Halloween movies specifically, is that he didn't make stock remakes. Like I think that Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003, I fell asleep watching what his...
Is that the one with Jessica Biel in it?
Yeah, like that movie. I don't know why.
Yeah,
I fell asleep.
Yeah, right. I did.
His Halloween movies are Rob Zombie Halloween movies. They're dripping with nastiness, and he really is obsessed with evil. If you think about, House of a Thousand Corpses, if you think about, like, look at Halloween, the scenes with William Forsythe, and just Michael just grows up evil and mean and nasty. There's nothing redeeming about him, and I actually think Halloween 2 is probably his second best looking movie. There are some
Yes.
shots in Halloween 2, man, where I went, oh, I see you. Uh,
Yeah,
uh,
100%. That was really good.
like
Yes.
wonderful shots in there. And I think next, so I think 31 is not a movie I totally enjoy, but I do think that the guy who plays Doomhead, Richard Burke,
Right.
is exceptional in it. Like Richard Burke's the dude, he's in Mandy, like he's in Barbarian. Like that dude just pops up in so many different movies, but his role as Doomhead is probably, I'd say it's tied with the actors in Devil's Rejects as the best performance.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was another one. Like I said, my brother-in-law,
Oh, nice.
he's a huge Rob Zombie fan. I remember going with him and his dad to see that one as well, and I do remember like me and his dad just kind of looking at each other at the end of the movie, like,
Well, it's a copy. It's a copy, right?
it's like, oh boy, this was.
Yeah, that was I don't know if I really enjoyed it.
It was something like it's one of those where you just gotta. It was something. I'm not gonna say I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna say I hate it. I don't like to say I hate or trash people's projects because I understand it's all art. So somebody loves it, but it just didn't. It didn't do anything for me.
No, you and because I think one of the biggest problems with Rob Zombie is I know he just made the Munsters, but he hasn't really adapted as a director. I don't think so. He did The House of a Thousand Corpses. Then he purposely and he plans everything out. He makes The Beautiful Devil's Rejects, and he makes Halloween 2, Lords of Salem, which as he definitely goes a different angle that way with more like close quartered apartment kind of paranoia type vibes. But then he goes
Right.
back to 31. He goes back to 3 from Hell, and he sort of regressed at that moment. I think where
Yeah.
as opposed, I guess he just went back to his wheelhouse,
Mhm.
and when you do that, you're never desperate. Like he has money, he's doing fine,
Right.
and so he's not going to find that desperation. He's not going to find what he was looking for in the early 2000s. I think.
I get what you're saying. Listen, kind of like once you like some of these basketball players, some of these athletes, like once they get that big contract or they get that championship, it's like whatever they did to get there, they never, you know what I'm saying, like to continue to replicate that. You know what I'm saying? You didn't, that same hunger isn't there no more. That same drive to,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, that whatever that free feeling is, you can't tap into that. Like you said, I mean, it is a beautiful thing to be young and inexperienced because you just do your best creation because you don't know anything, so you're just going for broke. You're just letting your imagination run as free as it possibly can. You're not thinking about you're not thinking about nothing. You pretty much regurgitate it out onto your tablet or to your laptop or whatever. It's right there in front of you. Then you go and shape it, and then you're like, all right, cool, let's put it out. And it's beautiful. But once you do it, and then once you kind of know something, now you're starting to, like I said, because now you know a little bit of structure, you're not running as free as you once did. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you won't even allow yourself to run as free as you once did, but out of feeling of you'll never catch that same thing again. You know what I'm saying? If you keep comparing it, you're always going to be down. You know, they say comparison is the thief of joy, and I truly believe that. So if a creator believes that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like you'll don't worry about it. Just make the movies you want to make and go for it.
I wasted so much time in 2015. So in 2015, I wrote my first ever big hit. I looked at all the Metacritic audience, Rotten Tomato scores, Rotten Tomato audience scores, and IMDb scores for every horror, like theatrically released horror film released since 2000. I was gonna like do the best horror film of the 21st century according to all the different scores, like which one has the best average across everything.
Right.
And that was my first big hit. And I did a poll, and actually Devil's Rejects was in the top 10, and I wrote a big post about it. It got shared everywhere. Devil's Rejects on their Facebook page, if you go look at it, my post is up there with Devil's Rejects in the top 10. Like they shared it, and like I got a ton of views from them because they were so happy to see their movie in the top 10 on this poll. And the interesting thing is, because of the success of that, I tried to recreate it for a solid year of like, what's the best horror franchise? What's the best comedy? What's the best animated film? What's the best 21st century film? And they all flop because I was trying to recreate something, not grow as a as a writer. I was just trying to recreate this feeling I had
Right.
and the success I had. And so once I gave that up and I just started writing about Jason Statham's overcoats and jet skis, that's when I found my success and I actually got hired from companies. When I realized that trying to recreate what was big is just a waste of time, and I wasn't growing as a writer, and I was just wasting a tremendous amount of time. So I think with Rob Zombie, he yeah, I just think he was trying to I do think he wants to recreate how great Devil's Rejects is. And
Yeah.
he's still a super smart guy. And
Yeah.
I mean, he's sold millions of albums. He's been on giant tours. Like he's an incredibly smart guy. But I just
Absolutely.
when you watch Three from Hell, you're like, yeah, this isn't it. And I think maybe came close from 31, but I just think you got to grow. Like M Night Shyamalan, I love. He's a guy who sort of he gets it. Like he know like when he wrote Sixth Sense, it was to get out of the Miramax contract. So he's like, I'm gonna write the greatest movie ever. And he got out of his Miramax contract, made a movie that got nominated for Best Picture. And then he
Mhm.
made Unbreakable, which he said was this is my favorite superhero film, but he said it was 60% art, 40% film. And so then he learned from that and he made Signs, which was a global blockbuster. Then he had some movies that weren't hits, but then he adapted again. Like this is a guy who's just kept adapting for
Right.
24 years now. Like he's
Right. He wasn't making the same film again and again.
yeah,
Like it's you're like staying in that supernatural fantasy realm, but you're not sticking to one specific side of it. You're kind
yeah,
of playing with all of it. No, I mean, I definitely think that. I mean, especially with a lot of those films you name, like those are really great films. And I mean, I think it's hilarious to look back and because I didn't even recognize Unbreakable when I was a kid. I didn't look at it as a superhero film, but it kind of, in a weird way, was. You know what I'm saying? And then for him to even able to build a whole world around that, Unbreakable, Split, glad like. I mean, the dude is pretty. He has some things I like. He has some things I don't like. But I will say that no matter what you can say about M. Night Shyamalan, he is willing to do it. He's willing, you know what I'm saying? Like to make that thing that's different from what other, you know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
he's not in the same thing again and again. And sometimes it's going to be a hit. Sometimes it's not.
But he knows how to make a hit. You know, I love.
Yeah.
Remember when he had that massive collapse with Airbender and all those movies? And he was
Yes.
like, okay, well, I'm going to work with Blumhouse. They're hot. I'm going to self finance a found footage movie that's super easy to tell about these grandparents. We did an episode on it. It's a fun episode. But yeah, it's like about these grandparents and yada, yada, yada. And he went and made 100 mil. Like
Yeah.
he's a guy who understands the mainstream, but he also likes being weird. He's like, all right, well, I'm going to drop Old now and I'm going to drop Knock at the Cabin and then I'll come back and make something big. It's cool. So it's,
And I think personally, I think that's a great space to be in. I think
yeah,
that's an amazing space to be in because you know how to pay your bills, and then by you making your bill money, that allows you to do all the free weird stuff you want to. But you know, I mean, when you're trying to be free and weird and creative, it's hard to do that when that's your bill money. You dig what I'm like you can't because you're so busy focused on this has to hit, as opposed to you just being free and creating. You know what I'm saying? Because now you kind of got something on your heels, but when you can just do it, no, I think he's in a if that is the format that he goes by, okay, let me make a big one over here, then I drift back over here and do the weird stuff that I think that is an amazing space that I would love to be in that space, have my regular you know, quote unquote, my regular job as a filmmaker. Like, all right, I'll go over here and do some short films or commercials for these people. And then whatever I make off of that, all right, now let's go be weird. Let's go do the things that I want to do. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? As opposed to the things that, no, that's a great space to be in.
I mean, Split made 300 mil and he financed that. So
Such a great movie.
yeah, he's doing pretty good. But yeah, it's, I just really love, I know I went on an M. Night Shyamalan tangent and not a Rob Zombie talk, but I just, Devil's Rejects is also a movie that's kind of annoying for me
Okay.
because I'm just gonna like all right. So I watch Moonrise Kingdom, and Bruce Willis is incredibly warm in that movie. I watch True Romance, and Patricia Arquette is just absolutely on fire. She's always great, but that's a weird example. But I watch Devil's Rejects, and it's a good film. Devil's Rejects is a film. It's not a movie, right? It's a B movie, but you watch it, and it's so well written and so well acted, and and then you watch his other stuff, and you kind of go, oof, this isn't it. So he's a frustrating filmmaker in that I think you always understand that it's a Rob Zombie movie. So that means he knows tone, he knows his style, he's
Right.
self-assured in that regard. But yeah, I just wish that he would, like, Devil's Rejects came out of a place of wanting to prove to everybody. You know, like I want him to just move on. If that, I think he's been successful, not, but yeah, I don't know. I guess it's, but how, you can't write many of these movies though. Like this one was
I
lightning in a
mean,
bottle.
I mean, well, I think I'd have to push back against that. I actually think you can write these movies. I think it's just all about how you deliver them now, and what are you doing? How are you getting people engaged into the story? Because even with this, let's just take this for instance. I mean, it's Devil's Rejects was made in a time where, you know what I'm saying, like, I mean, cell phones was out, but they wasn't like, you know, the way that it is right now. So it's like back in those days when cell phones wasn't super available, stuff like that, and you look at kind of like the time period of the movie looks like what?
70s.
1970s, 80s,
Yeah,
early 80s at the
it's
best.
78, right? Because I think
Okay.
House of a Thousand Corpses takes place a year or two earlier.
So late 70s, you dig what I'm saying? And it's just this whole situation with these cannibalistic family. Like, it's like sometimes you see these weird articles in, you know, newspapers back in the day, or you hear it on the news, and it's like, that's crazy, but that'll never happen. But a part of you is just like, what if it does? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you're, like I said, I've traveled across this country way too many times to even count. And there's sometimes when you're driving on those long strips of road, you're just like, man, you know, this tiny little town, there's nothing around this tiny little town. It could probably go down here and nobody would ever know about it. So that it brings a little bit of a, you know what I'm saying, a bit of a realism to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is a, you know, you see these reports of people just going missing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what I'm saying? You drive and you see these, you know, not car lots, excuse me, junkyard. Like, where does all of this stuff come from? Where did all of these people go? So it's like, it's not super far-fetched to make stories like this. I just think you have to, what am I trying to say here? You got to tell that story a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? But with that also being said, I mean, maybe he just has a base that he wants to cater to.
Yeah, that's true. And listen, he's been working for many years, been successful for many years. So he seems happy with
Yeah.
his career. It's just Devil's Reject is so good.
I mean, it really is. I mean, like I said, it's a movie that I just love. That movie is the movie that introduced me to different styles of music. Actually, I started listening to Leonard Skinner and Terry Reid and you know, Led Zeppelin. I started listening to all of that stuff because of the soundtrack to Devil's Reject. I remember being a kid and downloading that damn soundtrack off of, what was it, LimeWire at the time, because I just had to have it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
'Cause I loved it. I loved it so much, and I didn't know where to get the CD from. So I remember ripping it off of LimeWire and just listening to it. And I was like, man, like, when I just hear some of those songs, like, I just get happy to hear them. You know, so no, it sounds great. It looks great, but I will say, looking at it now, I'm still shocked that that was even. How is that a rated R movie?
Yeah.
I'm shocked that that's not an NC-17 movie.
Well, you know what I think though? So I was looking at the horror films of 2003. Then I was looking at the horror films of 2004, and it was a pretty mean time for mainstream horror. It was at a very aggressive time for mainstream horror. I mean, we
Really?
had what hot hot tension. We had Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was brutal. Like when you watch that one, I don't think it's very scary, but it really is. It goes for it though. It's
Oh
dark.
yeah.
It's bleak. And then you had what, House of a Thousand Corpses, and even if you watch Freddy vs. Jason again,
I remember that.
it's very aggressive. It's a very aggressive movie. And then you had 2004 come up, and 2005, and you had movies popping up like Hostel. You had Saw.
Oh
Like
gosh.
this was a day and
Yeah.
age of very
Very.
aggressive.
Man, those, yeah, you're right. You're right. Like, just how, like, torture scenes and stuff like that. Like, it was way more graphic, or like, to this day, I still think that there's a chance that somebody's going to come and cut my Achilles heel just because of Hostel. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I will never get that image erased out of my mind. But no, I get what you're saying, man. Those movies were very they're very bloody, they're very aggressive. They really, like you said, they went for it.
And I think Devil's Rejects gets away with it because of the dialogue and because of the characters. And I mean, William Forsythe is really good. Danny Trejo is really good. DDP is really good. Ken Foree is really good. Like it's a movie that's wildly violent. But you know what else saves this movie is that Zombie never wanted the film to be pretty. He never wanted to be the action films to be exciting. He didn't want the, like, that fight scene with Otis and the banjos
Yeah.
is just, you know, not even, no punches are really thrown. There's fish hooks. There's just it's just a wildly violent fight, you know. And
Yeah, no skillful fight. Like this is not like a that. It looks like a wild, unorganized fight when you're trying to, escape. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
mhm.
there's no tact here. I'm not taking a stance. I'm not, like you said, doing throws and punching. And like, nah, they trying to escape from this guy. Like, no, you're absolutely right. It
Ugly.
just,
Everything's ugly in this movie, and
yes, yes,
think I think when things this is why I also like it. Like movies that glorify violence sometimes. I mean, like Final Destination does it for a laugh, right? But I think
yeah,
horror movies that glorify violence, and I think if you make a movie like this and you don't make the violence ugly, I think that's worse than what Rob Zombie does. I really do, because if you're going to make a movie like this, make a movie like this. Like if you Johnny Numb, we have this series called the Feel Good series on Movies, Films, and Flicks, and we watch like Bad Lieutenant and First Reformed. And if you're gonna make a movie like that, make that movie. Don't pull punches, because then it'll just be pointless violence that leaves the viewer completely empty. This is a movie that Devil's Rejects doesn't do that. I think there's enough well-written scenes here, and there's so much mean-spirited humor, but everyone's so committed and it's so well shot. I mean, in the motel room, they shot wide open, which I love. You know, like
hmm
they shot wide open with their lenses wide open to capture as much light as possible. And then they said we bounced a lot of stuff off the floor and tried to stay away from a theatrical kind of look. Although, if you look at it really closely, it's not totally realistic. There's a lot of backlight coming from other places. But the idea is to create an impression of naturalism and not necessarily make it natural, which I love. Like that's a great thing that the cinematographer said. But yeah, they really tried. This wasn't just a nasty little thing with nothing to it. This is a movie that tried to make you feel bad for the killers. It has an agenda, and it's very confident. So I think when you make movies like that, like Devil's Rejects, I think they pass easier along the board, because I mean, look at Bonnie and Clyde, right? Look at Wild Bunch. Those movies are nuts.
right.
Look at Straw Dogs. And so I think when movies are good, they get away with more, is what I'm saying. Like Titanic had entire
That's
frontal,
real.
like Titanic had a ton of breasts for 20 minutes and it's PG-13. I think the MPAA works with that. Not always. But yeah, I'm shocked. And also there's a lot of CGI blood. You know, Russell, what do you think about the CGI blood in this movie? I don't mind it.
Wait a minute.
Did it
It
bother
was
you?
I didn't know the blood was CGI.
Yeah, yeah, like a lot of people complain about it, but here's the thing: on the making of documentary, when the woman gets stabbed in her back, remember
Right.
when baby's laying on the ground
Yeah.
and Otis comes out and stabs her? They had to do that for several hours because he kept missing the blood pack. One time he cut the lines going to the blood
Oh, you're
pack.
talking about that type of
Yeah,
blood. That
and
okay, okay.
like real practical blood with pumps and everything. And so they were
Got
on set, and so there's special effects versus visual effects. And like he was stabbing this thing and it didn't go right, and they just spent hours on it, and they shot it in 30 days, and there's so much coverage in this movie that they didn't have time to stab blood packs for every day for the blood, so he went VFX because it was cheaper and it was faster.
wow.
So, and that's what he had money for. So I don't mind it, because there is an artistic, and there's a reason for it. It's not like, just make a VFX blood, you know, like whatever, it's cool. Like he had to. So I don't mind it when I understand why the director did it.
hmm I have to go back. I can tell you this: if that's the case, they use CGI blood. That is mind blowing, because I definitely thought all that. Well, obviously not real, but you know what I'm saying. Like it looked good to me. You know what I'm saying. It was enough for me to be like, like when they oh gosh, that the character when they're fighting in the junkyard. Uh,
There's Roy, and then there's Adam Banjo.
Yeah, him. You know what I'm saying? And after Otis, I want to say Otis shot him in the neck or whatever, and he's just like on
Oh,
the ground. And you know what I'm saying? Like just the way that it was like, I don't know, man. Like you said, that movie just always felt there's a certain thing about I don't know what about that movie. I don't know whether it's the way that they shot it. I don't know whether it's the camera. I don't know whether it's the filter. Whatever it is, that movie has just some weird level of realism to it. It just it doesn't feel like a movie at times. It feels like we're really getting taken on this roller coaster ride of like a wild, you know what I'm saying? Like almost like a documentary, damn near. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? It just feels that way. And like I don't really know what it is that they did, but they kind of took the cinematic feel out of it.
Well, that's the brilliance of Rob Zombie here. He hired a guy who shot mostly documentaries and had
Yeah,
and was new handheld cameras. He brought in his friends who had worked with for the roles, so they were very committed. There's a lot of coverage in this film. There's a scene where the lady has the mask on and she's running out of the hotel room before she gets hit with the truck.
yes,
And Zombie made her do it again because he said, and they had to film it again because he said it looked too rock and roll video. So he wanted to avoid, he wanted to avoid the rock and roll video look. He wanted to pursue naturalism for everything he could. And you know what though? I don't think these performers get enough credit for that, because you've acted before. I've seen you be the shadiest photographer on the planet. And what was the name of the character? Oh
oh
man.
gosh, I can't remember his name with the hat. With the
Yeah.
hat.
Just know that
Oh,
Russell
I,
played a guy who's like the shadiest photographer ever. Just drinking whiskey, taking photos,
I cannot remember his name. Oh, that's gonna bother me.
rocking the hat. But this is tough to keep the energy up. Like Sheri Moon Zombie in this entire film is just all energy. Otis, the way he has to deliver his lines,
Right,
beautiful. I mean, Sid Haig, the way he keeps his energy up. Even the people in the house. You have the Sullivans and you have the Banjos.
they did.
They
Everybody did an amazing job.
Yeah, the yelling when Posehn catches a bullet in his head, their screaming is nuts. And
Yeah,
even Danny Trejo's speech about, listen, man, like you hired like the two dudes from hell to go kill people from hell. Like this is what
right.
you do, so don't pull back now. Like you need us. Like what's interesting is like William Forsythe, his brother was murdered, and he's seen the worst chaos by these people. Then he becomes the villain.
If anything is probably the most intriguing about the story of this is that what you just said. How the hell did we start this movie off with these people that these are deplorable human beings that we, by all accounts, we all should hate these people. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, they're murderers, kidnappers, rapists, torturers, just the worst of the worst people. And somehow, through us watching this story, they go from villain to damn near anti-hero, where you find yourself somewhat cheering them on because William Forsythe's character has gone so far off the rails, and he's becoming what he is now chasing. You know what I'm saying? Like he's torturing, he's, you know what I'm saying, doing all of this stuff. And it's man, that I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know too many films that have made me feel that way, where I
Yeah.
go into it, I'm looking at the villain. I know you are a villain. I should not side with you in any way possible. There's nothing we should agree upon. But even so, when we get to the end of it, it's just like, damn, just gun it, man. Just push through the roadblock. They're gonna make it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that
Mm-hmm.
weird thing how you find yourself cheering for them. No, that's
And
crazy.
they're not super powerful Kevin Spacey from Seven, right? They're not like they're not insane people like Buffalo Bill or like Annie Potts, right? Is it Annie Wilkes from Misery?
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah. I remember.
they like Rob Zombie said that they become kind of likable because they have a code where they're always honest, they're horrifying, but they're terrible, terrible, terrible people, but they're always terrible. And then they sort of have a weird code about them.
Yeah,
And they're also kind of idiots, like running out of gas. Like they're on the run too. Like they're not smarter than the cops. They're just on the run.
right.
So it's just an interesting uh yeah, they're horrifying people and they'll snort up all your cocaine. That's for sure. But it's uh, uh I guess for them there's an odd what's the word? Maybe a purity to their evilness, that
Yeah, like,
they're not hiding anything.
I mean that it's a weird thing, but I guess that is a thing. Like you said, there's some sense of honesty to them, and the fact that they just own who they are. They're not trying to, dress it up and like, oh, we're nice, beautiful people in the daytime, and then like no, they present as awful as they are.
Yeah.
Like this, there is no, there's no schmoozing, and we will get whatever we want, however we want it, when we want it, however we got to do it. So no, there is some weird beauty to those characters. And then on top of that, I just think that there's something to be said about when we see kind of the white knight characters turn heel and go black.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's always that thing. Like you damn near hate that person more because it's like you should have known better and you still descended. So I think that's the reason why it's so easy to turn on William Forsythe's character and start cheering them on, because it's like you should have been better.
Yeah. And so he turns, but then you have the family of the Fireflies who stick together. Like
Yeah.
they have an oddly cohesive family unit, which blows my mind. But yeah, you know what's interesting too, that they're never like we're evil because of the society, or we're evil because like Michael Myers, I had a terrible father.
No,
Yeah, it's just we're
evil.
evil. Like
We're just evil.
yeah, they're just
Some
there's no.
sometimes it just got to be said like that. Sometimes it's just that's just what it is. I think oftentimes people want to dig too deep into an origin story and
Mhm.
get so hung up on origin stories, and it's like sometimes, man, let's just get straight to it. This is just who these people are. There is no origin story here. I always thought that was one of the best qualities of Joker is he didn't have an origin story. Now they're giving him one, but you know what I'm saying? Like we're just straight to the point here. We're not here to. There is no reason why we are this way. We are just this way.
Absolutely. And yeah, and also they everyone in this movie sort of comes across fully, like they're sort of fully realized really quick. So I think from a screenwriting perspective, when William Forsythe goes like Alabama ass kicking, and just the way that they run away from the house, the way that they like, I think every character comes fully realized. Now, I think the weakest part of this movie, the one that always takes me out of it, is Mother Firefly, played by Leslie Easterbrook, the cop,
Right.
the cop from Police Academy,
Mhm.
because her performance is her performance isn't even at 11, man. It's like 14. Like
Yeah.
she's House of a Thousand Corpses, whereas the rest of them are Devil's Rejects. I don't like her yelling in the prison cell. Like that's a different movie to me. And this movie excels when it puts you in it and you're existing in the nastiness. But when you're with her, it just goes so over the top that I don't enjoy it. I would say that's my least favorite part of this movie. Now, I think the actress is fine, but I'm not sure why Zombie let her turn it up to 13.
Mm.
What do you think about her? What do you think about Firefly?
I kind of feel the same as far as her character goes. It when I really think about it, I mean, two characters that just kind of didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Her character, like, I mean, I guess she was there to kind of poke the bear in a sense with the sheriff. You know what I'm saying? Kind of add fuel to his fire. So maybe I think the character that kind of was out of place the most for me was the tiny character. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yeah.
like he pops. So you see him in the beginning dragging a dead body in the woods. He's this clearly disfigured looking guy or whatever. So we want to keep him from society. I don't know, giant almost. And then he just so happens to come to the rescue in the ending, and then he goes and he's so heartbroken that he walks into the burning house. You know what I'm saying? Like what none of that none of that really made sense to me, but I guess I don't get too hung up on it. But nah, his character kind of puzzled me a bit. But her character, as far as her performance, I mean, she really did. She was in that prison cell wailing, man. She was in there doing some screaming. But no, I think that part of it was a bit much, but I think the part of her, going through and showing him the pictures, and I'm cool with that because, like I said, she's kind of fueling his fire to be like, okay, I gotta not only do I gotta do this to uphold the law, but now it becomes a vengeance thing. It's a vendetta thing for William Forsythe's character, the sheriff.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing about Tiny is the actor Matthew McGrory. He just couldn't move, and he ended up passing away in 2005. So I think
Yeah.
they wanted him back in the movie as kind of a. He sneaks up on William Forsythe really well too. I just want to like, yeah, he comes out of nowhere. But then he passed away. So I just don't think he could move. So they just sort of brought him back and then just had him walk into a fire.
Oh, okay, okay. Just kind of
Fan service, I guess.
okay. Well, I mean, knowing that makes a lot more sense, and knowing that now, that kind of makes it a little bit more okay. Then sometimes I don't have a problem with that. You doing a bit of a chef's kiss to a character. I mean, sometimes that's a like you said, that's a cool little tidbit of knowledge. I did not. I do recall reading about him passing away, but I didn't. I
Yeah.
never thought it was that could have been the motivation behind his character being there.
And they also had a subplot with Dr. Satan in it from House of a Thousand Corpses, but they cut that out because he belongs in another movie entirely. That would have made this movie worse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
because
would have
that's
been
not the
too
movie.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think more than anything, that's the great thing about it is it's like I think we both can say we've seen movies where you just like, okay, you got it, you got it, you got it, and then they put on an extra. You're like, no,
Yeah.
you put, you know what I'm saying? It's like making a pizza. No, you put too much cheese. It's too much cheese. Stop.
Yeah,
You know,
stop. Don't do that. Don't do that.
it's too much. No, you had it perfect. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm a firm believer that listen, man, I do understand why some directors' cuts may be good, but man, some directors' cuts aren't. You
Mm-mm.
know what I'm saying? Because it was just way too much. Like it's just, I mean, I
Ridley
saw
Scott. Ridley
Apocalypse Now.
Scott's the king of it, right? But
Yeah,
yeah, Apocalypse Now is a lot.
yeah. It was a great movie as is. I saw the whole what like 3.5 hour edition or whatever, and I was like y'all didn't need this.
And people are obsessed with all the cuts too. But I mean, make extra money. Why not? Why not put some extra money in Francis Ford Coppola's pockets? We can get
I
some more
get
wine out of it.
great, amazing filmmaker.
Hey, so I put out on Facebook. I asked some of my MFF followers about Rob Zombie movies, and I got some
Mhm.
answers, and I want to read them out.
Okay.
So I got, let's see. So I asked, what's your favorite Rob Zombie movie? What do you think about The Devil's Rejects? And what is your number one all-time favorite horror sequel? And Lisa L says, well, no, she says I don't like zombie. She's like, I don't like Rob Zombie's movies. But then she put The Devil's Rejects as the best. And then she loves Saw 2 and Final Destination 2. Janie Matthews says The Devil's Rejects, but 31 comes in pretty close because I enjoy the Doomhead character. 2, I think The Devil's Rejects is liked more because the tables get turned and you start feeling bad for the killers and you kind of want them to survive. They go from being the hunters to being hunted, and everyone wants to be on the side of the underdog. Oh, and it has a pretty great soundtrack. That's what Janie wrote. So smart.
Hey.
Yeah. And then she wrote Evil Dead 2 is her favorite horror sequel. Classic American movies. He loves House of a Thousand Corpses. And Chris Kelly said, love it. I still have my ticket from when I first saw Rejects in the theater. He's like, I also have a lot of great memories showing folks that movie. Oh, no. Gross, crude, and brutal. Everything a horror flick should be. And he put, that's a tough one. So he loves Evil Dead 2, but he also said Book of Shadows, Blair Witch 2. Tony Briley, he loves The Devil's Rejects. He said it's the best. The last sequence with Freebird playing was intense. He said his favorite horror sequels, Halloween 2. Lisa Skippin said The Devil's Rejects or House of a Thousand Corpses. She wrote Rejects is his best film and one I can watch over and over. Her favorite horror sequel is Scream 2. Ryan Groff, well, he likes Bride of Frankenstein or Scream 3. He hated on him. Next, and then Joe Ross, he wrote, it's probably Devil's Rejects, so many classic moments. Devil's Rejects is probably his best movie by far, created some great characters. I know this is going to get destroyed, he said, but I love the Chucky sequels. They're so terrible yet hilarious. And I told him that the Chucky sequels are great. The latest two of them are really good movies. So, yeah, thank you to everyone on Facebook who answered this question. We got a lot of Devil's Rejects, Russell.
Man, once again, it's that movie is just it just happens. I mean, I know I mentioned this film earlier in the episode, but I feel that same way about Super Troopers. Like that movie was just it just seemed like one big happy accident. And I've watched all of those guys' films, the Broken Lizard guy, and they never were able to read whatever that magic they caught with Super Troopers. They never was able to get it again. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's just sometimes you just get a happy accident in film or music or whatever. It just happens, and it's like you can't explain it. There is no diabolical scheme behind it. It's just things just happen to fall in place perfectly.
Well,
This
yeah.
love it.
And Super Troopers came a little bit from desperation because they made their first film Puddle Cruiser, and it was a comedy, but it started really slow. So then they had to do comedy routines before the movie started to get audiences hyped up, and then they would put the movie on so that people weren't bored during the first 10 minutes. So Super Troopers, that was their first big studio film, and so they made it really crazy. Like they made the beginning intense, and it just worked because it's so simple. It's about a bunch of idiot cops who have to save their station. There's nothing to it. I think the later films get a little bit more involved. But yeah, I mean, once again, this is like Zombie. They had something to prove. They learned their lessons from the first film and they made their best movie. And
I mean, who does? I mean, that's a hell of a story, though, right? I mean, why? Like you said, when it comes to desperation, sometimes, especially when you're creating and you're like really trying to like, okay, all right, y'all say I can't do this, or all right, fine, let me prove myself to show why why I need to be in this space. I mean, I'm definitely I'm feeling that exact same way right now. Which was shooting my first short film. I feel the same way. Like I feel like I got something I got to prove to myself. But you know what I'm saying. I feel like I just have to. I just gotta know that I belong here in this space. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm supposed to be here doing this. You know, so that's why I feel the way that I feel about films. That's why I go as hard as I do behind filmmaking and filmmakers, because it's like, you know, you just want to be. You know, I'm just trying to showcase that I'm supposed to be here.
You'll get there, man. You'll get there.
Yeah, we almost there.
That's right.
We almost there. Hit a few bumps in the road, but we'll definitely get there.
Oh, you're gonna hit many more too, man.
That's the fun part of it, though, man.
Yeah.
It's been a journey. I've learned a lot through the entire process, but you know, we got a great story, and we're going to film something pretty special, man. The hopes is to get it into film festivals, and you know, try to make some noise at these festivals, man. So that's my goal right now. If that one don't make it, the next one will.
And listen, I think the biggest strength I've had with my career is I decided I wasn't going to go anywhere in 2010. Yeah. I'm like, I'm just going to keep doing it. I've had so many duds, man. I've had so many waste of time articles. I've had so many pitches turned down, but you just move on to the next one. So you'll do it. You'll be all right. I mean, I taught you, man. You'll be fine.
I appreciate that, man. Like I've learned a lot from you, man. I've truly have learned how to like take the time and really appreciate film. And I will say, because of your class, I now make it my business to watch more short films. I make it my business to watch definitely more old films. If it's the older, the better with me now. I used to be very snobby about black and white films. You are the sole reason why I've started watching black and white films of all sorts. I don't care what the genre is and nothing like that. I've been watching the hell out of a lot of blaxploitation films lately, like the ones that you don't even, none of the big name ones, like the ones that you don't even know, you know what I'm saying? Like the you've never heard of. You didn't know that, you know, Rudy Ray Moore did this, or Fred Williamson did that, but there's a lot of gold in those blaxploitation films too. I think that's probably why I connect with Devil's Reject so much, because it feels like a
exploitation.
It does, you know what I'm saying? Some of them blaxploitation movies, like you said, because they didn't know what they didn't know, they were free. And they just were able to create and make some really unique storylines. So that's where a lot of my influence comes from. So I appreciate you for, you know, helping expand my horizon when it comes to film. Seriously, I just love sitting down and watching films and just essentially just watching somebody's art and learning how to appreciate people's art, as opposed to watching movies with kind of a snobby outlook at, oh, this is good, this is bad, instead of being like, okay, I see why people like this, but this is why it doesn't work for me. But I also see the beauty in this, you know, and so I might see some beauty that other people just don't see. So no, I appreciate you so much. You allowed me and taught me to have a true appreciation of what film is.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I got nothing else to say. I don't like it when people compliment me. I'm like, what's going on? I don't like it.
You got to get used to it, man. Nah. I'm weird about compliments too. We got to get used to it.
Hey, well, we did it, man. We've been talking about this for a while, so I'm glad we got to talk about this movie, and I'd love to have you back.
Hey, anytime, just let me know. I had an amazing time. I had a ridiculous amount of fun. I was looking forward to this for quite some time, so I'm happy that I was even able to, you know, was able to do this and finally chop it up.
Have you watched Truck Turner yet?
Oh, come on, man. Truck Turner is one of the greatest blaxploitation movies of all time.
I've been wanting to talk about that for a long time.
Well, I tell you what, man, just let me know and we can hook it up. And I can't shut up about that. Like, that's another one of my favorites, you know what I'm saying? Right. So just let me know if you ever want to talk about Truck Turner. I'm here.
Well, the nice thing about bringing people on to talk about their favorite movies is it's just easy.
Yeah.
Because they talk about their favorite
conversation
movies.
stirs itself, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for joining me.
Mr. Hoffmeyer, thank you so much. You stay blessed, my man.
All right. So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for Russell Green, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.